Helen Batten for starting us off tonight. She said that was the swing of the kilt. So if I'd known, I would have worn my kilt. Thank you to everyone for finding time in this busy Christmas season to join with us to celebrate 105 years of our Lakefield Public Library. As all of you here know, as of January the 1st, 2001, this library will become a branch of the Smith Ennismore Lakefield Library. And as a board, at our last board meeting, we felt it was appropriate to celebrate our past, to recognize our present and former staff, to recognize board members, volunteers, supporters, patrons, all before we started off on a new era of library service. My name is Brenda Neal, and other board members here, Lorraine Langley is chair of the board, Elaine Westbrook, sitting over here, Dennis Gagne, Mary Smith is the council representative, and I want you to know that this event was organized by Lorraine, by Jill Warren, our CEO, by Mary, by Elaine. So Dennis and I had to do what we were told, right, Dennis? Dennis moved the furniture, and I got to speak. So here we go. I'd like to recognize, first of all, some former staff members who are here tonight. Joan Bennington. Where did we do? Oh, here is Joan. And you may hear more about Joan later. And I don't think that Kathy Sarandensky has arrived yet, but Kathy is coming up from Western Ontario to be here tonight, and she was on the road last I heard. So some of you will be really pleased to see her. She was another of our past librarians. I may miss some former board members, so I want you to be sure and raise your hand and let me know who you are. But I see some as I look around here. I see John Boyko, right? Yep. Board member. John Ackerson, Don Steele, and there must be more board members that I am missing as I look around. Bob Helsing, right? Yep. And who are you pointing to there? Pat. Boy, did I ever miss on that one. You are down here. And we will hear from Pat a little later too, but it's wonderful that Pat has come back to retire in Lakefield and support us in all our endeavors. Thanks, Pat. Okay. Our community has been very generous over the past year, and I just wanted to recognize donors that have supported our work. Nexicom, Lakefield Lions Club, Dr. Catherine Owens, Lakefield IGA, Remax Lakefield, Dr. Bruce Gibson, and a very generous anonymous donor that we care about very much. I'm going to call on Mary Smith, who is the council representative on the board, and ask her to give you a little bit of a brief history of the library. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm really delighted to be here. And I have to say that I want to thank the Historical Society in Lakefield for providing the copy so that we do have, and originally from the library, but it's now in print. If you buy a book, you can see a picture and read about the history of the Lakefield Public Library, and I'm going to use most of that this evening. But I think it's important, since we are here celebrating 105 years, I just want to tell you how this all began. The Lakefield Public Library began its life as the Mechanics Institute in 1891 in the Royal Templars Hall now the site of St. Paul's Roman Catholic Church. In 1892, the Institute moved to a room in the Firemen's Hall located in the Town Hall, which was where our municipal building is now. Library representatives asked the Village Council to take control of the library and reading room in 1894, and it was then renamed the Lakefield Free Library because a library card was free. In 1895, the Free Library received its first legislative grant from the Ontario government and was renamed the Lakefield Public Library, and the 105th anniversary of that renaming is what we are celebrating this evening. Dr. John Bell was engaged as librarian at a salary of $25 per year. In 1897, we saw the first electric light installed in the library by Medill Brothers Electric. The town hall and library were destroyed by fire in 1918, and many of you probably have heard about that. And after the fire, the library was moved into the old Midland Hotel for a time, along with the council chamber and the fire engine. Quite a combination. It worked. And then Mr. Thompson, a tailor on Queen Street, allowed the use of his store for a reading room. Books were donated to the library by the Whitby Library and many private individuals. In 1921, the library and reading room moved into the new Memorial Hall, which is the building that this library is attached to, and a no smoking rule was passed. And we wonder if that was related to the fire, but we're not sure. The library was on the main floor of Memorial Hall until 1967, when it was moved to the second floor. The vacated main floor area was renovated, paid for by the Lakefield Women's Institute, and became known as the Centennial Room. This room was used for library programs and community group events, meeting space, and as the council chamber. In later years, it was taken over as office space for the Village of Lakefield staff. In the 1980s, concern about the weight of the growing collection resulted in an engineer's study of the library floor. This is when it was still upstairs. The study concluded that the floor was overloaded and that it was necessary to remove half the books from the center of the library in order to avoid potential disaster. Books were quickly packed into boxes and stored in the basement of the old post office across the street. The library board searched for a new building to house the library, but they seemed to run into a roadblock at every turn. Eventually, the building of a new emergency response center on Concession Street enabled the library to move down to the Allen Clark Fire Hall in 1993, and that's where we're standing today. And many of you who've been in the village a while will remember that fire trucks used to be in here at one time. A tremendous amount of planning, fundraising, and community effort resulted in the completion of the site used today. In 1996, a wonderful group of volunteers began a used clothing store called Renewed Classics upstairs in the municipal building, and it was to raise funds for the library. It is still going strong and has raised over $28,000 to date, which has been put towards children's programs, leased books, and new library materials. In the past few years, the children's area has been moved into the old fire hose tower, which is over here, and we now have a comfortable reading area that's been paid for by a very generous anonymous donor. Many improvements were made to the library's book collection over the years. The Lakefield Public Library became a member of the Ontario Library Association in 1915. In 1925, the book committee purchased the first juvenile book, and in 1928, a story hour for the children was introduced. All of the library's books were cataloged in 1926, and in 1968, the library was associated with the amalgamated Lake Ontario Regional Library System, which was responsible for a greatly improved interlibrary loan service. In 1993, the card catalog, which some of you may fondly remember, was replaced by a computer catalog and an automated circulation system. The library became the host of the Lakefield Community Internet Access site in 1998 with funding from the Government of Canada, and that means 3 computers are normally in place here where people can come in and have free access to the internet. And we've put them in the back room to provide some space this evening. There have been librarians in the Lakefield Public Library over the years, all of whom deserve mention. In 1885, Dr. John Bell then was followed by Magistrate O.A. Langley in 1900. In 1916, Mr. William Morrison took over, followed late that year by Miss Edith Griffin, the first female librarian. In 1921, Leela Burgess and then her sister Helen Burgess were employed, and then Miss Grace Young. In 1947, Mrs. J.W. Ridpath began and remained as librarian for 20 years. Mrs. I. Mackenzie was librarian from 1967 to 1971. Mrs. Joan Binnington and Mrs. Pat Segenga shared the responsibilities of librarian from 1971 to 1985, followed by Catherine Saradinsky, who just walked in the door, I believe. She's right there. And that was in 1985 when she became librarian for 3 years, and then was followed in 1988 by Bill Warren, who is the present CEO and chief librarian. The library board also employed many part-time library assistants over the years. So over the past 105 years, the Lakefield Public Library has provided excellent service due to the efforts of skilled staff, dedicated volunteers, and public support through municipal funding. On behalf of the Village of Lakefield, I would like to thank the board members that I've served with over the last 3 years. I appreciate their expertise and volunteer time given, and the staff for their very dedicated hard work, and also the patrons who support our community library to such an extent. And I believe that we'll see this library continue to play a very vital role in the Lakefield community over the years to come. And our Reid is here this evening. I don't know whether you'd like to say a few words, Bob.
Thank you very much, Mary. It's wonderful to be celebrating something that's so old. I hope that someday I get it is kind of bittersweet, but times change, and we've had a wonderful library services all those years. And I'm sure, as you said, that the future does hold promise for the library, and it's going to be, I think, benefit to all young and old here. So on behalf of the council, thank you very much for that.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the history lesson. I hope it wasn't too long, but it's really great to be able to share that with you all. Thank you. Next on my agenda, I have greetings from Peter Adams, and I don't think Peter Adams has arrived. So this time, you can go first, Gary. Gary Stewart, MPP.
Okay, I might as well just stay here. First of all,
you're welcome to come here if you'd like.
A whole bunch of people back here. So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to come out and be part of the 105th celebration. Let me bring greetings to you on behalf of the province of Ontario, and say, I guess on behalf of them, thank you to all people that have been involved over the 105 years of this library. You know, it's funny, being in municipal politics for a few years, libraries, it's interesting because of the combination, libraries and fire services seem to be the last thing sometimes a lot of municipalities thought about. And certainly they did not fund them the way they should over the many years, but certainly in the past number of years, they have seemed to realize how important both of those services are. So I wish you well, and as Bob said, yes, there will be some changes, I understand, coming up, but that's what life's all about. And if you do the right, change can be very good. And certainly I think with the community spirit and the people involved, whether it be staff or volunteers of this organization, I think it will bode well for you in the future. So congratulations, and be around for another 150. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope that you will take some time to look at some of the articles and pictures on display. John Bennington and Mary worked hard here yesterday and today, getting them set up. There is a wonderful article here about Mrs. J.W. Ridpath, the lady they were speaking of, who had spent so many years in this library, and it was prepared by Mamie Grills, and that's John David Grills' mother, and I just thought you'd like to know that, Katie. You're carrying on in
That
your
she was
mother's
my
name.
mother?
Yeah.
I knew that.
But you said you went around some of those years. There's a portrait up behind the Piper there of Catherine Partrail, and I found it really interesting when I started here on the board 3 years ago. We were given background material, source books for small public libraries prepared by the ministry, and they had some sample agendas and sample board meetings and so on, and lo and behold, two of the people who were members of that wonderful board were Susanna Moody and Catherine Partrail. A more recent literary figure who was a member here was Margaret Lawrence. And Margaret was a strong supporter of our library, and she wrote a poem entitled The Library that you can see framed up around the corner. But I'd just like to share it with you now because it kind of says what she thought about libraries and about Lakefield and our library here. A library is a house for a family of many thousands. People in the tales spun across the years. People from now and then, all waiting quietly to meet you. And then how you will hear their voices and share lives and know something of yourself in them and in all humankind. A library is a house with thousands of rooms, and in the rooms variously dwell laughter, colors, variety, the clean lines of mathematics, lines of poems, graceful as blue herons, learning, and even some understanding of all creatures and our earth, our dwelling. A library is a house welcoming those who open any of its doors. A library opens doors for children and honors their honest sight. Let them see farther into their world and worlds far from theirs. A library opens doors of spirit, mind, heart, and sometimes returns all of us to the wise and thoughtful curiosity of children. So, perhaps right now we could have some greetings from the Lakefield Historical Society. Neil Watson.
Thank you, Brenda. My name is Neil Wasson. I'm here to speak on behalf of our members of our Lakefield Historical Society. We have close to 60 members. So over the course of the next 2.5 hours, I hope to give you the opinion of each and every one. I note that, reading some of these articles, I note that when the Mechanics Institute, the forerunner to our Lakefield Public Library, was organized in 1891, and that there was speaking by some prominent Lakefield residents, and smoking was prohibited. With my exception, most of those traditions are carrying on today and tonight. I love libraries. I had libraries since I was a child. One of my greatest tragedies, one of my most broken hearts is that my younger sister and our family dog trashed my library one time, both books. I've been in libraries in England, in Ireland, in Scotland, in Wales. I have been in libraries throughout the United States, Knoxville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, Fort Wayne, Indiana, several libraries in California, and in Florida, counting section down there. My favorite library is the Lakefield Public Library. That just happens to be. My first memory of the Lakefield Public Library was in the mid to late 40s, and the librarian was Miss Grace Young, who had the grocery store on the southwest corner, her father and her, of Queen and Reed Street, kitty corner from the post office. And she was followed by Mrs. Jean Ridpath, who there's a plaque dedicated to her there. Also, Mary Smith made mention of Taylor Thompson, who made some donations to the library. Taylor Thompson happened to be Jean Ridpath's father. So the Ridpath, also Mr. James W. Ridpath was chairman of the public school board and publisher of the local newspaper, and was married to Jean Ridpath and a longtime supporter of the library. So there's a little more history, and we'll stop that. Our organization is very appreciative and thankful for the great volunteers and the staff and the board of directors that we have in our Lakefield Public Library. When you hear some of the names of some of those who have served on the board in the past years and those who are on now, we've had some great people, and that's why we have such a fine library. In the 1940s, when I come to the library here, it was about 10 paces up that way in the town hall proper. They had a reading room there, and it was in there that I first was acquainted with the pleasures of Life magazine, Popular Mechanics, the Globe and Mail, and we used to come down on Friday nights, and the reading room was open on Friday nights, and I expect we were looking for girls because we didn't have any, and whenever we didn't have any, we were looking for them. So anyhow, we spent a lot of happy hours in the library in the reading room, and Grace Young and Mrs. Ridpath demanded more silence than in church, and they got it. But we giggled a lot, but we also enjoyed the library. We now have a library that gives excellent service. It's one of the very top libraries for a village of our size that one could have. And it meets the growing needs of our community. It's changing. They're able to adapt. Our citizens have shown tremendous support for our library, as was witnessed in a major fundraising campaign in about 7 years ago, I believe, when they moved into these premises, and it was really supportive. We look at amalgamation now, and we call it amalgamation, and indeed it is. But really, there are many citizens in the village of Lakefield who feel that if you were to use a business term, it'd be a hostile takeover. And that is just, that's the way of the world. But amalgamation is very pleasant and very nice, but when you're outvoted 4-1, the amalgam seems to go down. We have some thoughts, and that's not to say, first of all, let me add to, when I was speaking on that subject, that we in Lakefield are survivors. Our library has existed for 105 years. Our town has existed and will exist long after that. Let us not fear amalgamation. We didn't get on the movie Survivor or the TV show, and we didn't get the $1 million, but we are survivors, and we will do fine. But it's going to take us a while to train these other municipalities. One of the things that we have with instant, distant communications, with global trade and interaction among people throughout the world, many see the need and the urgent need to expand our library, to ease our access to information and knowledge. I say many. We recognize that our board and staff of the Lakefield Public Library see that need and have a clear vision. We urge you to continue and to work for that goal. History records that good people and good ideas will in the end prevail. We embark upon our future with the knowledge that a good job has been done and with great expectations. Thank you.
I would now like to recognize the new president of the Kawartha Lakes Chamber of Commerce Eastern Region, Bill McLeave, who I just met for the first time tonight. So if you'd like to bring some greetings, Bill?
I'll make it quite short. Well, thank you all very much for the invite today. And I can't surpass the comments that were made prior to me by Gary Swift about Pepsin. And if I forgot something, that's just me. And of course, the quote from Margaret Lawrence, I think it sums it all up, the importance of a library. And I do concede the fact that this has got to go another 105 years at least. Thank you.
Thank you. There was the representative from Southern Ontario Library Service that supports our library, Gwen Wheeler, was not able to attend tonight, and she has sent a letter. I will try to skim through it quickly and share her thoughts with you. I would like to commend both past, present municipal councilors, library trustees, library staff, volunteers, and the residents of the village of Lakefield for supporting public library service for 105 years. Through your efforts, people's lives have changed. Through your efforts, families have been able to share the joyous stories, pictures, and reading. Through your efforts, families have been able to learn about dinosaurs, trucks, horses, stars, Australia, and making Play-Doh. Through your efforts, someone learned how to build a deck, grow a tomato, cope with a tragedy. As libraries struggle to understand their role in the new millennium, it becomes increasingly clear that libraries are more than the sum of their collections and technologies. Libraries are valued in our communities as a place. That is, they're more than the service they provide. They contribute to the correct connectedness and energy of a community. This happens because the library provides an opportunity for people to interact and to share, and this contributes to the flow of information in the community. This is an important function of a library, but no less important than the value of ideas in the books in the library. Someone captured the power of reading in the following verse. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the smarter you grow. The smarter you grow, the stronger your voice when speaking your mind or making your choice. Good luck with your commitment to public library service in the future. Sincerely, Gwen Wheeler, Library Development Consultant. Thanks, Gwen, for thinking about it. Perhaps now I might call on Pat Spaganga, former librarian.
Well, my heart is with Lakefield Library, but tonight I'm wearing my Lakefield Literary Festival hat. And I bring greetings to everyone from the Lakefield Literary Festival. And I think it's appropriate that we're celebrating 105 years because the festival supports authors and writing, and the library provides the opportunities for literacy. From babes and being a grandmother with some really tiny grandchildren, they really enjoy quiet time reading, to retired people who may want to go back to university or take a course or learn how to use the computer. Libraries are here for lifelong learning. And that's a public institution. Great. So I think that the combination of the Lakefield Literary Festival and the Lakefield Smith North Libraries is going to be a good
in the future. Thank you. Just in case you were wondering, our festival this year happens to be July 14th and 15th, so mark that on your calendar. Now, I wondered, Kathy, we missed you when I was introducing, and I don't have you on the schedule, but I wondered if you wanted to say hi to everyone. It's been a long time since these people have seen you, I think. Since we gave Pat time. Thank you. I just drove in from Kitchener this afternoon, and it's always a joy to come back into the village and a joy to come to the library and to see Joan and Pat and volunteers I remember and papers I remember, and our library board chair was Don Steele, and it's so good seeing everyone here. This is just a great library. I worked upstairs. If you ever went up all those stairs, I had it memorized. I think it was 17. I forgot. Stairs to go up there. I was never in such good shape in my life as when I worked up in that library. But I felt very much that I was carrying on a very important legacy in that library. It started by the librarians who you mentioned, Brenda, all the way through. I had the pleasure of working with Joan and Pat on a contract when I first came here with the local history information. Served some time with the board, and then we came back as the head librarian. And all of those experiences were so positive. I very often hark back to my experience here in Lakefield through my career as it progressed. I worked in the Waterloo Regional Library, and it's really a jewel. And I remember the stationery, if you still have it here. It says on it that Lakefield is the cradle of Canadian literature. It's your campus library. We still have that. It's really a jewel. Yeah, I love that. I thought that's exactly what it is. If the village is a jewel, and so is this library, and I'm very pleased to be here. And again, best wishes for another 105 plus years. You're welcome. And now I would like to call on the chair of our board, who has a pleasant task of thanking our volunteers. This is Lorraine Langley, in case you forgot. Typically, at this time of the year, we have a little coffee party for our volunteers. And when Mary was planning it, this happened. So it kind of grew. Anyhow, we have many, many, many volunteers in this library, and they do many tasks. For the last, this is their 5th year, I guess, of the youth classes, and they raised thousands of dollars. That involves a lot of people and a lot of hours up there. And we have volunteers working in the library, there's shelving, helping in other tasks around. We have local gardens out here, thanks to Mr. Dean. We look after those in the summer. We have Dennis and maybe others helping with the computers, people coming in, teaching them how to use them. So this is our time to say thank you to all of you and wish you a Merry Christmas, happy season, and before you leave, there's princesses that are around, make sure you take one home with you. Thank you very much. And please come back for years and years and years. Just following up on what Lorraine has said, you people have probably read in the newspapers that we are on the lookout for more volunteers. This brochure is up on the desk. It's a brochure that tells you about volunteers in the Lakefield Public Library, all the different jobs that you might want to do. You might want to work on programming or processing or watering plants or doing overdues or computers or circulation data. So I'm making a little pitch tonight for any of you who don't already volunteer in the library and are looking for some satisfying work. We'd love to have you with us. Just give your name at the desk and we will certainly get back to you. Recognition of staff. I'll call on Elaine Westbrook. And Dennis.
I'm actually going to immediately turn this over to Jill, who's going to say a few words about the other board staff members. Just while I am thinking about it, Brenda mentioned that there are information flyers on the desk talking about some of the various roles that can be performed by volunteers and that we need to have performed by volunteers in the future. Also at the front desk, there is a journal. There's a guest book. And some of you have signed your names, and some of you have written a couple of personal messages about what the library has meant to you over the years. Please, if you haven't done so already, would you take the time to do that before you leave this evening? Sure. Thanks, Elaine. Before I actually get on to talking about the staff, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the library board. Throughout my employment, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different people on library boards, and the and the current library board has encountered some of the most difficult challenges a board can expect to face. They've had to be active participants in amalgamation while endeavoring to preserve the traditions of our library and the interests of the community that it serves. On behalf of the library staff and the community, I thank you for your efforts over the past 3 years, and I encourage you to continue to be an active supporter of the Lakefield Library. I have certificates here for each of you, and I'll just take one out and read it to you. You know what they say. The Certificate of Achievement from the Lakefield Public Library is presented to Brenda Neal in recognition of outstanding accomplishments and contributions to library service in the village of Lakefield during her appointment to the Lakefield Public Library Board, 1998 to 2000. There's one here for each of the board members, and Janice Rich, who I saw come in, who is a past board member, and Rosemary Robertson, who I'm not sure if she's here this morning. Sure to get one of those. When I was asked to say a few brief words about my fellow employees, I thought it would be really an easy task. That Joan Bennington, Jillian Miller, and Norma Miller, no relation there, and Laura Spencer, they're wonderful people, all of them, and wonderful library staff. However, as I thought about it, I realized that these 4 women, between them, have a total of about 75 years of service to this community. And 75 years of service in a few brief words is next to impossible. So I'm going to have to just hit on a few little highlights and leave it at that. Joan Bennington. Joan Bennington began her career here in the fall of 1964. You can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. She's worn many hats during this time, including everything from children's librarian to financial officer. Joan has served a countless number of families in this area, whether through reading stories to children on Saturday mornings, as you can see a picture behind me. A younger Joan, but still recognizable. Or helping find the right books for that school project, or assisting someone with a search for information on the history of the village. Joan's been there. Joan retired after 30 years of service in April of 1994, but she can't keep a good woman down. And for the past 6 years, she's worked Fridays from January to April while Jillian danced in the Florida sun. Jillian Miller. Jillian's been a member of the library staff here since 1975. Jillian, as most of you know, has a wonderful sense of humor, and she's an enthusiastic dancer. English country, square, round, line, you name it. Jillian loves it, and she participates with gusto. And gusto is a really good word to describe Jill. She doesn't go at things half-heartedly. In fact, an example of that would be, if you remember a few years back, before we had computers and before we had fines, the staff decided that instead of charging fines to borrowers who returned their items a little past due, they should be provided with a way to purge their guilty feelings. And so a guilt box was created. Well, Jillian loved to give the box a really good shake when people came in. She's just a little angel on their shoulders, reminding them to fork over that cash. It was great. And actually brought in a lot of money that way. Jillian spent the past 25 years spreading smiles to our community, and she often vows that she's got to become more serious and stop all the silliness. But let's face it, without the silly, she wouldn't be Jilly. Norma Miller, no relation. She began her relationship with the library in 1964 as a young mother who brought her children to the library. She became a volunteer with us when she retired from teaching in 1989 and was hired that fall to help cover hours while I was away on a maternity leave. That worked out so well that we decided to keep her.
And as a retired teacher and a dedicated library user, Norma made a wonderful addition to our library family. When Norma isn't working here, she's reading or quilting or reading or knitting or sewing or reading or spending time with her grandchildren and maybe even reading to them. Norma is the person to see when you have a school project, and you've got to find that information that's really going to impress your teacher. If you're looking for a good book, talk to Norma. She has a great love of mysteries and classic children's books and poetry, and she can steer anyone to a great read. On Tuesday mornings, I depend on Norma to give me a rundown on the books that she's read over the weekend, and she passes along the ones that she knows I'm going to enjoy. In fact, even though our tastes differ from time to time, I continue to rely on her to point me in the right direction for a book that I can sit back and read and know I'm going to really enjoy. And that's because Norma takes her time. You know, she listens to your likes and your dislikes about the books that you've read. And not only will she steer you in the direction of a book that you'll enjoy, she can tell you which ones you're really going to hate, too. Which often throws out to me, just to let me know what I'm missing. Laura Spencer has been with us since March of 1999, which is almost 2 years, although it seems a whole lot longer. And I mean that in a nice way. Laura brought with her a great deal of library experience, which she gained while working in libraries located in Toronto and Montreal and at the Bethany Hill School. Perhaps because of this experience, she mastered our automation system quickly and soon became knowledgeable about our collection. And in addition to her work here, Laura is very active in her community through participation in skating clubs and brownies, and until recently she chaired her school council. Laura has become a friend of many of our library members who enjoy her quick wit, and she's become a favorite with the teen crowd. For some reason, they seem to enjoy being told that they should get off the internet and go read a good book. I think they just really appreciate the fact that she gives them attention, even if she is telling them to get to work and stop goofing off. These 4 women have many common traits. They're all professional in their attitudes, they're dedicated to this library and the community, and in addition to the huge hearts, they all have a well-developed sense of humor, which has contributed greatly to the success of the Lakefield Public Library. Please join me in thanking our dedicated staff for their combined 75 years of service to the Lakefield Library. Would you like to do the certificate? Ladies. Get forward. Yeah. No, these are for. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get some film. Oh, no. You're out.
Gotcha, Neil. Gotcha.
Here we go. Okay, now, usually, oh, we have one more thing, don't we, Elaine? Oh, sorry. I now have the opportunity to say a few words about Jill Warren, the current CEO of the Lakefield Public Library. I met Jill 3 years ago when I first became a board member, and it's been a real pleasure for me and for the rest of the board members to get to know her and to work side by side with her. In terms of her professional responsibilities as CEO of the library, Jill has approached her duties, certainly in the time that I've known her, with lots of energy and enthusiasm. I'm sure that all of you have seen the obvious evidence of her work in a number of different areas, including things like seasonal decoration, book displays and memorabilia displays that she arranges, the variety of programs that she organizes, from craft and story activities for school children to adult information seminars to weekly storytime activities for preschoolers. She's done a whole lot of that over the years. Some of you may even have been lucky enough to have seen Jill in her pajamas for the sleepy time reading activity that she ran last year. Jill also works tirelessly behind the scenes. What you may not realize is that in addition to providing programs and services to all of us patrons, she's involved in a whole lot more. And I'll just give you a little snapshot of some of the other things that she does. Jill helps the board to formulate, or has helped the board to formulate goals and objectives for the library. She helps develop library policies and procedures, and she helps to implement these within the library. And she's also the board secretary and treasurer, and at times that puts an enormous responsibility on her shoulders. She seems to be doing a whole lot for us a lot of the time. She has, of course, additional responsibility in terms of hiring and supervising staff, co-op students, and volunteers, and she must make sure that all the jobs in the library are carried out, so she has to delegate and do that well. Jill keeps track of and applies for all kinds of grant opportunities to get some extra money, and she's always keeping on top of what's available out there. She manages and monitors the budget. She participates in fundraising activities, including helping to create relief packets, which, as we've heard, has raised many tens of thousands of dollars every year. She promotes and publicizes the library within and outside the community in a variety of ways. I'm sure that you all await with interest the regular library newsletter that she puts together for the Village News. By the way, she also puts the whole Village News together in terms of printing that up. Don't know if you were aware of that. If this is beginning to sound like a job description, I apologize, but there's so much that Jill does that we just don't see that I thought I'd take the opportunity to share a bit of that with you. Besides, this isn't a job description because a job description would include a whole lot more than what I've just mentioned. In terms of her personal qualities, Jill is very friendly, very pleasant, and really courteous to everybody who comes in and sees. She's efficient and hardworking, and the fact that the other staff is so loyal to her says a great deal about her. Speaking for myself and for the other board members, it's been a real pleasure to work with Jill. As you know, our hours of paid library service has been cut from 70 hours per week to 20 with the upcoming amalgamation, and we're certainly all very disappointed to see so many of our staff go. We're very fortunate, however, to be able to keep Jill for 20 hours a week. This will be a big change for her, as it will be for the rest of the staff, and we wish her well as she tackles her new set of responsibilities. Congratulations, Jill, on all of your accomplishments over the past 12 years at the Lakefield Public Library. And good luck to you as you begin your career with the Lakefield branch of the Smith-Small Lakefield Public Library.
Now, I get to say this. Sometimes we save the best till last. I've been very fortunate in the last 2 or 3 years to work with a group of students from Rippath School in the Silver Birch Awards program. And these people not only come and read books and vote on their favorites and all that kind of thing, but they fill in at introducing authors at the literary festival and events like this. And I didn't know who was coming tonight. So maybe I'll even have them introduce themselves. And they have chosen to do something special that I don't know what they're doing, but here is some entertainment from members of the Silver Birch Club. Ladies. Okay, so they're doing individual poems, and this is
The four of us are members of the Silver Birch program here at the library, and we're all very glad to be here tonight, and we're going to be two poems. The first one is by Charles Silverstein, and the second one I will also. This one is called Overdue. What do I do? What do I do? This library book is 42 years overdue. I admit that it's mine, but it's worth me to find. Should I turn it in or hide it again? What do I do? What do I do? And I will next time. Next time you take a book out of this library, there are 3 things that you must remember to do. Number 1, take good care of the book. Number 2, make sure the book doesn't get lost. Number 3, make sure it doesn't become 42 years overdue. smart. My dad gave me $1 bill, 'cause I'm his smartest son. And I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters, 'cause 2 is more than 1. And I took the quarters and traded them to Lou for 3 dimes. I guess he didn't know that 3 is more than 2. Just then along came old blind Bates. And just 'cause he can't see, he gave me 4 nickels for my 3 dimes. And 4 is more than 3. I took the nickels to Hiram Coon down at the seed store. And the fool gave me 5 pennies for them. And 5 is more than 4. And then I went and showed my dad, and he got red in the cheeks. And he closed his eyes and shook his head, too proud of me to see. Oh, if you're a bird, be an early bird. Catch a worm for your breakfast plate. Oh, if you're a bird, be an early bird. But if you're a worm, sleep late. Thank you again to all of those who have provided the library facility.
Hi, my name is Jessica McDonald, and I wrote this poem in recognition of all the volunteers and staff of the Lakefield Public Library. Books, books, they're wonderful things. Tales of dragons and pigs with wings. Where can you find such a wonderful book? Why, come into the library and take a look. Books for youngsters, books for elders, books on becoming dentists and welders. Adventure tales, horror as well. Books on history and fantasy swell. Books on unicorns, stories of whales, survival novels and fairy tales. Books on art, music and plays. Why, I could stay in here for days and days. Treasure Island, Oliver Twist. If you've never come in here, there's lots that you've missed. Authors like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, Mark Twain. When you're reading, imagination you gain. Books about pets such as dogs, cats, and birds. In all of those books, there's 12 million words. Directions on how to keep squid freshly jarred, and all that you need is a library card.
My name is Catherine Jackman, and I wrote this poem. Well, part of this poem. Thank you, Lakefield Librarians, for opening your doors to us and giving us this invitation. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a wisher, come in. A hoper, a prayer, a magic bean fire, come in. If you are a reader, come in. If you are a researcher, come in. A child, an adult, a friend, come in. Come sit in our library and read a book, for we have stories to tell, of mystery, adventure, and a magic spell. Come in, come in. In return for your utmost effort, kindness, and invitation, I give you this. If you've put away a book, thank you. If you've helped someone, thank you. Find out books, movies, or cleaned up, thank you. Thank you for being at the library and always there to help. River Birch was great fun. Thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you, thank you.
I think you can see why I enjoy working with these people, and there were 40 of them, so we had lots of fun.
Thank you,
Lakefield Library.
And thanks to Janice Worth who organized these girls. I think they were caroling tonight at Ridpath
Some of
School
us
as well.
were, yeah.
So you just flew down. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I also want to recognize the people from Lakefield College School who have been entertaining us before and who will entertain us for a little while, I hope, after. Stephanie Horsley? Sorry. Well, I just read what was on my paper. David Godfrey, Lauren Allen, and Jay Allingham. And we're glad that they chose to come down as well. We do have lots of students from Lakefield College visit, so it's kind of appropriate that they're here tonight too. It was mentioned that we would like you to sign the guest book. There are all kinds of goodies and refreshments. Volunteers, please remember your poinsettias. And have I forgotten anything, committee? Please stay to chat